The wind howled outside the small shelter, carrying dust and ice across the dark surface of the mining moon. Ray sat alone at his workbench, surrounded by broken tools and scattered metal parts. The heater buzzed quietly in the corner, barely, strong enough to keep the cold away. It was just another quiet evening, or so he thought. Suddenly, there was a loud knock at the door. Sharp, heavy, like someone, or something, was trying to break in. Ray stood up fast, heart pounding in his chest. Nobody ever came out here. He was stationed on the edge of nowhere, far from the main colony. The only visitors were delivery drones, and they never knocked. The knock came again, this time slower. A dragging sound followed. He reached for his shock baton, activated the security cam, and looked at the small screen. His eyes widened. A figure stood outside, barely able to stand. It was tall and thin, wrapped in a torn cloak. The face was hidden, but something about it looked wrong. Not human. Another knock, softer now. Then the figure collapsed right in front of the door. Ray hesitated. It could be a trap. But if it wasn't, someone might die out there in the cold. And even if they weren't human, they clearly weren't doing well. He took a breath, unlocked the door, and pulled it open. The freezing wind rushed in. He squinted through the dust. The figure lay still on the ground. Ray knelt down, pulled the cloak back slightly, and gasped. She wasn't human. Her skin was pale blue, smooth and cool to the touch. Her ears were small and shaped a little like an elf's. Long white hair stuck to her face, tangled and wet with frost. She had faint glowing marks along her neck like fading circuits. She was breathing, barely. Ray dragged her inside, closed the door quickly, and turned the heater up. He laid her on the small cot in the corner and covered her with a blanket. "Who are you?" he whispered. Her eyes opened slightly, deep purple and filled with fear. She tried to speak, but only a whisper came out. "Please, don't let them find me." Then she passed out. Ray didn't sleep that night. He sat by the edge of the cot, watching her breathe. He had never seen an alien up close before, only on old broadcasts and files. They weren't common out here. And he had never heard of one wandering alone across the deadlands of this moon. By morning, the storm had cleared, but the sky had a strange red hue. The woman finally stirred. Her eyes opened again, and this time, she sat up with a weak groan. "You're safe," Ray said softly. "I found you outside. You collapsed. I brought you in." She looked around quickly, alert. Her hand went to her neck. The glowing device on her collar blinked once, then stopped. She panicked, trying to tear it off. But Ray grabbed her hands gently. "It's not blinking anymore. I don't know what it is, but you're safe in here." She looked at him, surprised by his calm voice. "My name's Ray. I work maintenance at the old drill fields. Nobody comes out here." She nodded slowly. "I am called Virel." Ray tried not to stare. Even though her features were strange, there was something peaceful about her presence. Something lonely, too. Virel looked at the door. "Did you tell anyone I was here?" "No," Ray replied. "I was going to, but then you spoke." She looked relieved, but also tired. "Good. If they find me, I'm gone." "Who's after you?" he asked. She didn't answer. Her eyes stared, out the small window. "Bad ones, from my world. I escaped." Ray didn't push further. He could tell she didn't trust him fully yet. Over the next 2 days, she stayed hidden inside. Ray cooked simple meals and let her rest. Slowly, Viril began to speak more. Her voice was soft, but intelligent. She learned quickly and asked many questions. "Why do you live alone?" she asked one evening. Ray shrugged. "I like peace. Got tired of people. Machines make more sense." Virel smiled faintly. "Machines cannot hurt you the way people can." That answer made Ray pause. She was different, not just in body, but in heart. She moved carefully, spoke kindly, but sometimes would freeze up at random sounds. Like a haunted animal. like she had been hunted for too long. Ray didn't know her story, but he knew fear when he saw it. That night, something changed. Ray was working at his bench when he noticed her standing silently near the door, staring at it. "What's wrong?" he asked. "They're near." Ray stood. "Who?" Varel pointed at the tracker on her collar. It had blinked again, just once. Suddenly, a low thumping sound echoed in the distance, like a ship approaching. "They found me," she whispered. Ray ran to the control panel. "I can lock down the shelter. If they try to come in, I'll blast the vents and short the scanner grid." Varel didn't move. Ray turned to her. "We'll make a run for the canyon. There's a ship graveyard out there. I can hide us inside the old survey pods." Still, she didn't move. Then Ray said, "Come on. We have to. Go now." But Varel stepped in front of the door, her expression serious. "No." Ray blinked. "What do you mean, no? You said they're dangerous." Varel's eyes locked on his. "You don't understand. I am bonded to you now." "What?" "When you saved me. When you chose not to give me away. My instinct changed. I can't leave you. I can't let you leave me." Ray stepped back, stunned. "That's not how it works. You don't get to choose for me." She took a step forward. "I'm not choosing for you. I'm begging you. Please. Stay." Ray looked at the door. Then at her. "You're not my prisoner, Varel," he said slowly. "But I'm not yours either." Her voice trembled as she whispered, "Then why did you save me?" Ray didn't answer. The sky outside turned red. The ship was close, and the only way out was through her. Ray stood frozen in front of the alien woman. The red light flashing outside the window made shadows dance across the walls. He could hear the soft rumble of a ship flying low over the mountains. Varel still blocked the door, her pale blue skin glowing faintly in the dim light. Her eyes were serious and calm, but her body was tense, like she was ready to fight if needed. Ray shook his head slowly. "You're not making any sense. What do you mean?" "Bonded." Varel looked down for a moment, then met his eyes again. "My kind. We were made long ago for service, for control, for obedience. But a few of us escaped, and in freedom, our instincts changed. We started bonding emotionally, mentally with those who showed us kindness." Ray frowned. "That sounds intense." "It is," she said. "It was never meant to happen. But when you saved me, when you didn't hand me over, my instinct chose you, and now, if you leave me, I will feel it like pain." Ray took a deep breath. This wasn't what he had expected when he pulled her inside to save her life. "But I didn't agree to anything. I'm just a guy trying to help." "I know," she said gently. "You didn't ask for this. But I cannot turn it off. I feel safe near you. I feel alive." A strange silence filled the room. Ray looked at her, not with fear, but with confusion. She didn't look threatening. In fact, she looked scared. Not of the people chasing her, but of being alone again. Outside, the ship's engine roared overhead. A scanner beam flashed across the roof of the shelter. Varel stepped away from the door and stood beside Ray. "They will find this place," she said, "but they do not know you are here." "You think I should let them take you?" She turned to him slowly. "If I go alone, I die. If I stay, they will come for both of us. That's the risk." Ray didn't speak for a while. Then he said, quietly, "I'm not running yet." An hour later, they were both dressed for travel. Ray packed emergency supplies into a small bag: food, water packets, a signal jammer, and a flare gun. Varel helped quietly, her movements graceful despite her injuries. Ray handed her a thermal cloak. "The canyon will be colder than here. Stay covered." She nodded. They slipped out the back panel of the shelter and into the icy night. The air was sharp against Ray's face, and his boots crunched softly on the frozen ground. The sky glowed red as a drone hovered in the distance, slowly scanning the area with its long light. Ray and Varel moved fast through the hills, following a path only he knew, an old trail used by mining scouts years ago. No one came here anymore. After 2 hours of walking, they reached the edge of a deep valley. Below, in the shadows, were the broken remains of human survey pods and mining crawlers. It looked like a graveyard of machines. Ray climbed down carefully, helping Varel when the rocks were steep. At last, they found a half-buried pod big enough to hide in. He pulled open the hatch and lit a small lamp inside. The pod was dusty and cold, but it had thick walls and no power signatures, perfect for hiding. Varel sat down slowly. "You know these places well." "I used to repair them," Ray said, sitting across from her. "Back before the colony stopped funding this region." "You're clever," she said with a small smile. Ray gave her a tired look. "No, just stubborn." Later, while eating dried rations, Varel looked at him and asked, "Why did you help me?" Ray paused mid-bite. "I don't know. Maybe because nobody helped me when I needed it." She tilted her head. "You were alone too?" Ray didn't answer right away. "Yeah, I came out here to be away from people. Life was simpler with machines, but even machines can't talk back. Even silence gets loud after a while." Varel reached out and touched his arm lightly. "I'm sorry." Ray didn't move. Her touch was warm. It didn't feel strange anymore. It felt real. "You said your people escaped something?" he asked. She nodded. "Our creators were cruel. They saw us as tools. I was born in a lab, raised in control. But I learned. I saw things I wasn't supposed to. I stole a shuttle and fled." "Why this moon?" "No one comes here," she said softly. "I thought I'd disappear. Then I got caught in the storm and found you." Ray chuckled dryly. "Lucky me." She gave him a curious look. "Do you hate me for what I said at the door?" "No," he said. "But I don't belong to anyone, Varel. That's not how humans work." "I understand. But even if you walk away, I'll still feel it." Ray leaned back against the pod wall and closed his eyes. "Let's worry about survival first. Then we'll figure out feelings." A noise outside made them freeze. The pod walls vibrated slightly. Ray reached for his baton and switched off the lamp. Varel crouched near the hatch, her hand glowing faintly in the dark. They listened. A voice echoed faintly, mechanical and emotionless. "Target is near." Heat signature was detected. "Begin area sweep," Ray whispered. "They're using old hunter drones. Cold-blooded scans can fool them." Varel closed her eyes. Her skin cooled down almost instantly. Ray felt a chill pass through the pod. "How did you do that?" "Adaptation," she whispered. The drone passed by overhead. Seconds turned into minutes. Then, finally, silence. Ray let out a slow breath. "We can't stay here long," he said. "If they have drones, they'll have scouts too." "Where will we go?" "There's an old Earth relay station 2 days east. If I can power it up, I might send a message." "To whom?" "Anyone who will listen. I'd rather take a chance with humans than let you go back to them." Varel stared at him, her expression soft. "Then, you're not leaving?" Ray hesitated. Then he looked at her and said, "Not yet." That night, while Varel slept curled in the corner of the pod, Ray sat awake. He stared at the stars through the cracked glass. He didn't know what this was. An accident? A rescue? A connection he didn't ask for? But one thing was clear. He wasn't alone anymore. And that changed everything. The next morning came with no sunlight, only the soft gray of a cloudy sky. Cold wind passed through the canyon, whistling between broken machines and rusted walls. Ray woke up early, his back aching from sleeping against metal. He looked over and saw Varel still asleep, her long white hair falling gently over her face. Her breathing was steady, calm. She looked peaceful now, but he remembered the fear in her eyes the day before. Ray stepped outside the old pod to stretch. His boots crunched softly on the frost-covered ground. The air was quiet. Too quiet. He scanned the horizon with his small scope, watching the high cliffs and rocky edges for any sign of movement. Nothing yet. But he knew it wouldn't stay that way. Varel joined him shortly after, pulling her cloak tight. "They're still out there," she said. "I know," Ray answered. "We need to leave soon." Varel nodded. "You said there's a relay station?" 2 days east, if it's still. Works, I can send a message. Earth Patrol might answer, or at least warn them what's coming." She looked at him, her purple eyes serious. "And what if the message brings more danger?" Ray shrugged. "Then at least we're not hiding in a graveyard." They ate a quick meal and packed their things. Ray double-checked the jammer, making sure it still blocked signals. Then they left the pod behind and started climbing out of the canyon. The path east was harsh. Frozen hills, sharp stones, and thin air made the journey slow. Ray's suit protected him from the cold, but the weight of his gear and the steep ground tested his strength. Varel moved with grace, but even she was slowing down. As they walked, she shared more about her people. "We were made, not born," she said. "Our creators wanted perfect workers, strong, silent, obedient." "Slaves," Ray muttered. "Yes," she replied. "But some of us changed. We started feeling emotions. We hid it. But they saw us as broken." Ray looked at her. "You don't seem broken." "I wasn't always like this," she said. "Fear made me quiet. Loneliness made me cold. But you made me feel warm again." Ray looked away, unsure what to say. They walked for hours, resting only when they had to. That evening, they found shelter in a small cave behind a frozen waterfall. Inside, the air was still, and the rock walls kept the wind out. Ray lit a small heater, and they sat close to it, wrapped in silence for a while. "Do you think you'll ever go back?" he asked. Varel shook her head. "There is no home for me there, only chains." Ray leaned back. "Then we better find you a new one." That night, Ray woke to a strange sound, like a mechanical echo deep in the canyon. He sat up fast, hand on his baton. Varel was already awake, crouched near the entrance. "Drones," she whispered. 4, maybe 5. Ray listened. The sound was getting closer. A low, humming rhythm filled the air. Machines scanning, searching. "They found our trail," he said. "How?" Virel's face tensed. "They may have tracked my bioscent. It's not something I can hide." Ray cursed under his breath. "We need to move." They packed quickly and slipped out through the back tunnel of the cave. Ray had found it earlier when checking the cave's layout. It led to a narrow ridge on the cliffside. The ridge was dangerous. One wrong step could send them falling hundreds of feet. But it also led to a shortcut through the rocks that would bring them closer to the relay station. Ray led the way, gripping frozen stone as he moved along the edge. Varel followed closely, her steps light but careful. Halfway across, a drone appeared, behind them. Its red eye scanned the cliff, locking onto their movement. "Go!" Ray shouted. The drone fired a warning pulse, shaking the rock beneath them. A chunk broke off near Varel's feet. She slipped. Ray dropped his gear and grabbed her arm just in time. Her body hung over the edge, and she clung to his wrist with wide eyes. "Don't let go," she cried. "I won't," Ray shouted, pulling. With all his strength. With a final heave, he pulled her up onto the ridge. They both lay there, breathing hard. The drone charged up again. Ray pulled out his flare gun and aimed at the drone's eye. "Not today," he muttered. He fired. The flare hit the drone directly, and it exploded in a flash of sparks and smoke. Ray and Varel didn't wait. They rushed down the rest of the ridge and disappeared into the valley below. By morning, they reached the edge of an old human base. It was half buried in snow and ice, its antenna snapped, its gate fallen. "This is it," Ray said, wiping sweat from his forehead. "If I can power the console, I can send a signal." They entered the base carefully. Inside, dust covered the consoles and broken screens flickered weakly. Ray found the control panel and began connecting wires. Sparks flew, and the lights flickered once, twice, then turned on. "Still got life." He smiled. Varel stood near the door, watching the frozen landscape. "I'll need 20 minutes," Ray said. "I'll protect you," she replied. As Ray worked, he heard her humming softly, a strange, beautiful sound, like music from another world. He smiled as he typed commands into the console. He sent a short message. "Human and non-hostile alien under attack. Request immediate help. Coordinates attached." The signal went out. Now they had to wait. Hours passed. The sun never fully rose, only turning the sky into a pale gray. Varel stood silent by the door the whole time like a statue. Then a sound broke the silence, a soft beep from the console. Ray rushed over. "Message received," he read aloud. "Patrol responding. ETA, 8 hours. He grinned. "We did it." Varel smiled, but her smile faded quickly. Ray turned. "What's wrong?" she whispered. "They won't give up. They will come one last time." As if on cue, an engine roared outside. Ray and Varel rushed to the window. A large black ship hovered above the valley. It wasn't human. Varel's eyes narrowed. "That's their command vessel." Ray clenched his fists. "Then we hold until backup arrives." She looked at him, her voice soft. "You could leave now. Run. They want me, not you." Ray stared at her. "I'm not leaving you. Not after all this." Varel looked down. "Even if you're not bonded like me?" Ray stepped closer and gently touched her shoulder. "I may not be bonded like you, Varel, but I care. That's enough for me to stay." Outside, shadows moved. Through the snow, figures in black armor coming toward the base. Inside, two unlikely friends stood ready, together. The black ship hovered silently over the frozen valley like a dark shadow against the gray sky. Its engines pulsed softly, but the weight of its presence pressed down on the old relay station, where Ray and Varel hid. Inside, the two stared at the heavy steel door. Outside, footsteps crunched through the snow, slow and purposeful. Ray grabbed his shock baton and checked the ammo in his flare gun. Varel's eyes glowed faintly, her body tense and ready. "They're coming," Ray said quietly. Varel nodded. "We cannot let them take me." Ray looked at her and nodded back. "We won't." Outside, the soldiers advanced carefully. Their black armor gleamed under the weak light, and their helmets hid any human expression. They were silent. They were trained. They were dangerous. Ray's heart pounded. The door's control panel blinked, showing the lock sign. Ray activated the shield system he had repaired earlier, a weak force field that could hold for a few minutes. "Here they come," Ray whispered. The first soldier raised a heavy plasma rifle and fired. The shield crackled, absorbing the blast. Varel stepped forward, her body glowing with a strange blue light. With a swift motion, she raised her hand and sent out a wave of energy. The nearest soldier was thrown backward, landing hard in the snow. Ray charged from behind, baton ready. The fight had begun. Ray moved fast, striking with surprise. His training in the colony's security unit helped him dodge and counter. Varel was powerful. She moved like a storm, blocking shots with her arms and sending attackers flying with bursts of energy. But they were outnumbered. More soldiers came, breaking through the snow with heavy boots. The door's shield flickered and finally died. Ray cursed. "We need a new plan." Viral's eyes locked on the control panel. "I can overload the power. It will create a blast strong enough to stop them, but it might destroy the relay." Ray nodded. "Do it. We'll find another way to send the message." Virel rushed to the panel and began pushing buttons with fast fingers. Sparks flew as the console overloaded. Outside, the soldiers paused as a bright light filled the base. The power surge caused their weapons to shut down momentarily. Ray grabbed Viral's hand. "Let's go." They ran through the back door and into the rocky valley. The soldiers recovered and gave chase, shouting orders through radios. Ray and Virel sprinted toward a nearby ridge. The terrain was rough, but Ray knew it well. He climbed faster than Varel and reached the top first. He looked down and saw her struggling behind. Without thinking, he reached down and pulled her up. They barely had time to catch their breath when the soldiers reached the ridge below. One shouted, "Cut them off, they can't escape." Ray scanned the area quickly. To their left was a narrow cave opening. To their right, the cliff dropped sharply. Virel looked at him, eyes wide. "The cave?" Ray nodded. "If we can hide in there, they might lose us." They slipped into the dark cave just as the soldiers arrived at the ridge. Inside, the cave was cold and damp. Water dripped from the ceiling and the floor was slippery. Ray held a small flashlight and moved carefully. Virel followed closely, her senses alert. Suddenly they heard voices, soft but clear. "Split up. Search inside." Ray's heart beat fast. They moved deeper into the cave, trying to stay quiet. Virel whispered, "They will find us soon." Ray whispered back, "Then we fight, or we run." They rounded a bend and found a small pool of water, clear and still. Ray knelt and drank, motioning for Virel to do the same. As they rested, Ray studied her face. She looked tired, scared, but determined. "I don't want to lose you," he said, quietly. Virel looked down. "I don't want to lose you either." Their hands brushed, and this time neither pulled away. Suddenly, a noise startled them. Rocks falling from the ceiling. The soldiers had found the cave entrance. Ray grabbed Virel's arm. "We have to go." They ran toward a narrow tunnel that led upward. The passage was tight. Ray slipped once, but caught himself. Virel's breath was heavy. At last they reached the surface, a hidden cliffside overlooking the valley. Below, the soldiers gathered near the relay base, frustrated. Ray smiled. "They lost us." Virel leaned against him. "For now." Ray pulled out his communicator and checked the signal. "Backup is still coming," he said. Virel looked out over the dark valley, then back at Ray. "What happens next?" "We survive. We find a way off this rock. Together." Her eyes softened. Ray smiled. They didn't know what the future held, but for the first time they weren't afraid. They had each other. The cold wind bit at Ray's face as he stood on the cliff's edge watching the dark valley below. The black ships of the alien syndicate had left, but their threat still hung heavy in the air. The silence after the storm was strange. Almost like the calm before something bigger. Virel stood beside him, her pale blue skin almost glowing in the soft light of the distant stars. She looked tired but peaceful, a quiet strength settling over her. Ray looked over at her. "Backup is coming. Soon, Earth Patrol promised." Virel nodded. "I hope so. I cannot stay hidden forever." Ray shook his head. "You don't have to. Not anymore." Later that day, when the Earth Patrol finally arrived, Ray and Virel met the officers outside a small clearing near the cliff. The patrol was led by Captain Jensen, a calm and serious woman with years of experience in dealing with alien encounters. She looked at Virel carefully, and then at Ray. "You two have been through a lot. We're here to help." Ray explained everything. How he found Virel, how they escaped, the hunters chasing her, and the bond she said they shared. Captain Jensen listened quietly, then nodded. "There is something you need to know, Ray. Something important about Virel." Ray's eyes narrowed. "What is it?" Captain Jensen gestured for them to follow her to the patrol's mobile command center. Inside, she connected a device to Virel's collar. The machine scanned and hummed softly. After a moment, the screen showed detailed data. Virel looked nervous but stood still. Captain Jensen said, "Virel is not just any alien. She is a rare hybrid, part human, part alien, created for a special purpose." Ray blinked. "Hybrid?" "Yes," the captain continued. "Her biology was designed to bond deeply with a chosen partner, someone who can protect her and share a connection beyond words. It is why she said you belong to her, and why she can feel when you are near." Virel looked at Ray, her purple eyes shining. Ray reached for her hand. "That explains a lot." Virel smiled softly. I did not understand it fully before. I only knew I felt something new, something strong. Ray squeezed her hand. I didn't believe in this bond before, but I know I care about you now, and I'm not going anywhere. Captain Jensen spoke again. We can offer protection under Earth law, but Varel must stay hidden for a while. The Syndicate will not give up easily. Varel nodded. I accept. Ray looked out the window thinking. This was only the beginning. Days passed as the patrol moved them to a safe base on Earth. Varel was amazed by the new world. The bright colors, the sounds, the fresh air. She held Ray's hand tightly as they walked through the busy city. I never imagined a place like this, she said softly. Ray smiled. You belong here now. With me. One evening, as the sun set over the city skyline, Varel turned to Ray. I tried to leave once, she said quietly, but you stopped me. You said I belonged to you. Ray chuckled. Funny how that worked out, huh? She looked up at him, her eyes full of hope. Now I want to belong to you, not because I have to, but because I choose to. Ray pulled her close. And I choose you. In the days that followed, Ray and Varel learned to live together in a world that was both strange and full of promise. They faced challenges, fear from some, curiosity from others, but their bond grew stronger. Varel began to explore her feelings, trust, friendship, and maybe something more. Ray discovered that helping someone like Varel meant more than survival. It meant opening his heart. Together they were no longer just a human and an alien. They were partners, equal, united, ready to face whatever the universe had next.